DocTalk is brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.
Hey folks, welcome to DocTalk. We got our first 2 hats mailed to us. Remember, you can mail hats in, we'll put them on the show. Today we're going to have a great show. It's about early term abortions in beef cattle with Dr. Kelli Almes. We're going to talk about a lot of good things about what can cause them, some things you can do to prevent them, and if you're going to take samples, what you might send into the D-Lab. Thanks for being here this morning. Thanks for sending your hats. We'll see you here after the message.
As dependable as the sunrise, in dairy parlors, open pastures, on ranches and feed yards across America. A place where reputation is more than a name, where the science of healthier animals is a way of life. It's the responsibility that drives who we are and what we do. Every decision, every day. It's your livelihood and our responsibility.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
This segment brought to you by the new Hired Hand Portable Cow Sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Dr. Almes, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, this is Dr. Kelli Almes. She is a pathologist here at Kansas State University's Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory, where she is working with many different diseases, many different types of animals, producers, different settings. But today we're going to talk about early term abortion in cows.
That's right, Dan. So we see a lot of mostly late-term abortions at the diagnostic lab, but obviously there's a lot that don't end up with a full-size calf that we see in the lab, but there's still a lot of things that we try to talk about with producers, and one of the things that we really struggle to talk to veterinarians and producers about is non-infectious causes of abortion.
Okay.
Everybody wants there to be an infectious disease, therefore a treatment and something to do to prevent it.
Yeah, give me a vaccine, right? Let's manage this with a bottle.
Right. So unfortunately, in the majority of abortion cases, that's not really what happens, especially the early ones. So a lot of heat stress as we heat up this time of year, transport, moving to pasture, moving around, vaccination, inappropriate vaccination, which does result in somewhat of an infectious cause, but really it's a management issue. Mm-hmm. And then something that it's not infectious to the calf, but anaplasmosis, just causing systemic disease in the cow, resulting in a lot of early term abortion or embryonic loss.
So, in other words, we're talking about stress for the most part,
Yep.
Whether it's stress on the cow and things that farmers and ranchers could be doing to prevent stress will
Yep.
probably help keep those pregnancies.
Yep. Proper nutrition, another big one, trace minerals, things like that.
Absolutely. Well, when we start to talk about, obviously with the heat stress and moving cattle, then probably looking at thermal heat index and things that you're going to be able to measure instead of transporting those cows on a hot day. Maybe we're
Yep.
going to look to move those cattle when it's a little bit cooler, when we're not building heat load in them.
Yep. And there's been a lot of studies out there that say that even prolonged, the heat doesn't have to happen right then. The eggs are lower quality in the ovary even before breeding from heat stress. So you can see sort of long-term effects from that. It doesn't have to be an immediate thing.
Okay. So how do we determine some of these, non-infectious? What do you do as a pathologist working through some of these cases?
So in terms of management and the non-infectious causes, it's really a lot more in the hands of the practitioner, your local veterinarian. It's really hard for us to identify those factors. A lot of times we don't get a really extensive history. So it's really important for the producer to work with their veterinarian so that they know their vaccination schedule, they're familiar with their farm, the way they move their cattle, where they have them, how they're housed, the things that we're not going to find out about here.
And probably you're going to get some samples from a veterinarian.
Yep.
There's nothing going on with a pathogen.
Yes.
So now we go back to, okay, so what are some of the non-infectious,
Exactly.
and let's backtrack through the case.
Exactly.
But obviously prevention is the key, and when we start to look at the time of branding and turnout, and it seems like, man, I can't believe how far we truck some of these cows to
Right.
grass. We just need to work together.
Yep.
Well, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk more with Dr. Almes about maybe some of the infectious causes. I didn't mention, we have our hats up here. We got our first people to send in some of the hat. Rezac Land and Cattle Company and Hoxie Feedlot, along with the Kansas State Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. So anyway, send us your hat at the address below. More from DocTalk after these messages.
The BQA Tip of the Day, sponsored by Beringer Engelheim Vetmedica, Inc.
I'm Dr. Kip Lukasevich with Production Animal Consultation. Today's BQA Tip of the Day is proper implanting technique. It's a really important implant that we give these animals at arrival or delayed implanting, whichever it may be, is that we do a proper job of doing it. Implants today give you a rate of return of about $30 to $60 and sometimes up to $80 pending the implant. And so it's just really important that we get that implant in correctly. It's really important that we have disinfect the ear on arrival. So if we have a clean bucket for just the initial wash, and then disinfection for just a final scrub, and then we actually have our implant gun where we have the disinfectant that we should always change that disinfectant every 200 head or in between pins and keep that fresh. And then disinfect your needle each time in between each animal. If you skip off the ear, also disinfect that needle. Don't just go on an implant. And so that's your tip of the day.
Say this is a calf that's been run through the chute a few too many times. Going through the chute stresses cattle, causing them not to eat like they should. Luckily, Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ provides proven protection against key respiratory diseases in a single shot, with just one trip through the chute. Talk to your veterinarian about Pyramid 5 plus Presponse SQ, and soon your calves will relax and eat like a whole different animal.
Do your cattle struggle with pink eye, BRD, or another disease? Contact Newport Laboratories for a customized solution. Our custom-made vaccines are produced using the specific diseases found in your area. These USDA licensed vaccines offer potential cost savings on vaccine and labor. Contact your veterinarian or Newport Laboratories the next time your cattle are in need of a custom solution. Newport Laboratories custom-made vaccine, because every situation is different.
This segment brought to you by the new hired hand portable cow sprayer. For more information, visit cowsprayer.com.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson here with Dr. Kelli Almes. We're at Kansas State University in the College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Almes is one of the pathologists here at the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory. So when you and your veterinarian, or if you're a veterinarian, you send your cases in, this is obviously one of the experts that you want handling your case. And we're talking about early term abortions, and great information on the non-infectious, which we don't think about very often. We just ram and jam and got to get the job done. Now let's talk about some of the things that maybe are more what we think about.
Infectious, yeah. So bovine viral diarrhea, BVD virus, so there's a big one, right? So early infection in utero can cause embryonic loss. And a lot of times in the things that we're talking about with early loss, sometimes we don't even know that it's happened until later on down the road. So it's really hard to diagnose at that point as well. So that makes everything a little bit more difficult. Campylobacter, not a super common cause in beef cattle, but we can see it. And it usually causes infection in the cow, which then causes her to lose the calf really early. Leptospirosis, Another one that usually causes just infertility or poor conception rates, maybe not so much an abortion after the fact, but they just never get pregnant or they fail to settle. And then trick, obviously, which is a really big one, being a reportable disease. And we've had a few new counties identified within the state recently. So those are the 4 big infectious ones, really, that we think about with early loss. But then you can always have sporadic fungal and bacterial infections that there's really no way to predict or that those are going to happen.
Right. A lot of times that'll be weird weather patterns for your region or something like that. So talk to me a little bit about the what are some of the clinical signs? Is it just basically open cows when we go to preg check? Or?
Yeah, open cows, and then I guess the even worse than that is if maybe you don't do a good job of preg checking. So maybe they haven't identified who's open or not open, and you just have a long calving period. So you have cows calving quite a ways after you should be done. So that's really kind of another common sign to say that they were probably pregnant once, lost the calf, got pregnant again, and now you've extended your calving season out that year.
So, obviously working with your veterinarian is extremely important, but even this preg checking can lead you to an earlier understanding so that you maybe can manage some of the risk financially of a prolonged calving season that's coming.
Exactly. And without, and like I mentioned, with BVD, so if there's infection early and they lose the calf, if you don't identify that until the end of the season, you're probably going to have almost an impossible time identifying what the agent was if there was an infectious agent, because it's come and gone in the cow by that time, and so you're not going to be able to find it.
Yeah, and so I think that too with some of these new technologies, not trying to take away a job, but new technologies of blood pregnancy tests and things to that nature, we might be able to start getting even earlier pregnancy tests in cows. They're doing it with even a milk sample or a blood sample, either one. So there might be some things as you're pulling them off of summer grass that you can do. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about some of the things that you can do to work with your veterinarian on prevention of having these types of issues. You're watching DocTalk. We're glad you joined us, and we're going to take a break, and we'll come right back to spend some more time with you.
Some call it a come-from-behind victory, an unlikely win, a reversal of fortune, snatching victory from the jaws of defeat. This is our moment, our victory dance, because we choose confidence. We choose Zuprevo for BRD treatment. Ask your veterinarian to prescribe Zuprevo. Zuprevo is a fast-acting, long-lasting BRD treatment that you can count on to get the job done. Choose confidence. Choose Zuprevo from Merck Animal Health.
Hey folks, Dr. Dan from DocTalk here. Be sure to join me for Drovers Cowboy College, June 20th and 21st in Springfield, Missouri. We're going to have experts covering topics such as cow nutrition, treatment options, low-stress cattle handling, genetic selection, and economics on keeping your cow profitable. Be sure to register. Go to www.droverscowboycollege.com or give us a call at 877-482-7203, and I'll see you in Springfield.
It takes vision, dedication, hard work. It takes knowing who you can trust. At Zinpro Corporation, we have more industry-endorsed research behind our trace minerals than any other company. Proof that our patented performance minerals help improve overall animal health and performance. Lots of companies make claims. At Zinpro, we generate results.
If my calves start healthy and stay healthy, I've got a good shot at making money. That is why I trust Clostrix. It gives my calves the protection they need until their own immune systems kick in.
Calf raisers trust Colostrix colostrum supplements. Colostrix is USDA licensed and proven effective. When your money is on the line, trust Colostrix.
Valley Vet Supply is devoted to providing information and professional quality products at reasonable prices.
Valley Vet Supply.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Kelli Almes here with me, Dr. Dan Thompson, and we're at Kansas State University's College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Almes is one of our pathologists at the Veterinary Diagnostic Laboratory seeing a lot of cases. And so when we think about sending cases into the diagnostic lab, because that's one thing I think that we don't get enough done, is that we could glean so much information to prevent the issue through doing the proper diagnosis. My dad used to say that it was easier to sell a vaccine for a few $1,000s than to sell a diagnosis for a few dollars. And so we've got to get back to that. So what are you looking for in these types of cases?
So probably the one thing that's best when we're talking early loss, so we don't have a calf to do testing on. So if it's later on down the road and you have a fetus to bring in, or your veterinarian's going to take samples and send those in for you, that's a little bit easier to deal with. Really, some of the things you can do with early loss, obviously trick testing of bulls, which is required if you move or sell, all of those different stipulations. But we do have a serology panel, so there are a lot of places that will have what they call a bovine abortion panel, taking into account the common agents. The problem with that is we typically either don't identify it early enough to get the sample when we need to, or we only get one sample. And one sample doesn't give you a lot of information. We really need paired serum samples 3 to 4 weeks apart so that we know if they've had a rise or a fall in titer, depending on when you identified that they had lost it.
So let's go back to the titer. The reason why we do the titer, or the reason why we do it 2 to 4 weeks apart, is that there's a delayed response. So when you say serology, you're really measuring, were they infected by something that caused an immune response?
Yep.
And it takes that 2 to 4 weeks before you can measure that change.
Yep.
So you can do the test at the time of the abortion and have really low antibody or titers.
Yep.
But if you wait 2 to 4 weeks, then that'll show up.
Yep, that's exactly right. And the opposite way of that to look at it would be that if they didn't identify exactly when the abortion happened, you could take that initial sample, and if there was a high titer, then 2 to 4 weeks later, you can see if it falls. So you can see if they had built it before or if they're building it after. So it's kind of if you don't know exactly the timeline of things, sometimes that works out.
Well, I think that's important to know. And I think serology is an important tool that we can use in these types of cases.
Yeah.
And we tend to use it more on them.
Yeah.
Other things as far as samples coming into you, or things that you see that you don't like, or or things that we got to make sure that we do correctly to get the best answer.
So if we're talking about a full abortion workup, we really have sort of a set of tissues that we want and things we don't need, I guess we could look at it that way. So we really, in a full workup, like to have a set of fresh tissues from the fetus and a set of fixed tissues and formalin from the fetus. And the reason we like to do that is because, yes, we have all of our great, PCR testing and cultures and all of those types of things, but there's still some things that we need to look under the microscope to decide if there's a lesion or not. So we really like to have those fixed tissues as well. Bacterial culture on abomasal fluid is the number one thing that we probably don't get. And if there's going to be a bacterial cause there, and or sometimes fungal, that's where we're going to find it. Yep.
Huh. Well, I think it's important that you work with your veterinarian, get the right set of them. Obviously, you're providing CE to practitioners for tissues.
We have it posted on our website all the time, and we try to get that out there as much as we can.
Perfect. Well, folks, when we come back, we're going to talk about preventing these abortions with Dr. Kelli Almes. More after these messages.
When looking at the number of farm and ranch operations, the USDA Census of Agriculture says cattle and beef production is the largest single segment of American agriculture. The census also says the average age of the American cattle farmer or rancher is in the late 50s. In order to support the continuous supply of U.S. beef, these producers need to do some business planning to successfully transfer their cattle operations to younger, independent producers.
Hi, my name is Bill Barlow. I'm from San Antonio, Florida. We're about 45 miles north of Tampa. I'm third generation rancher here. My grandfather bought this land in the 1930s. He bought this land for 50 cents to $1 an acre. And he bought the ranch, and then along with my dad and my uncle, they ran the ranch through the years. And now it's went to my family with my mother, my brother, and my 2 sisters. I guess what I've seen the most valuable to me personally of the beef checkoff is the promotion of our markets, how it has increased our markets overseas and even here in the United States. Our society has grown. We have people that are farther away from the ranches now that do not understand the way of life of ranching. The beef checkoff helps in some of the misunderstandings that some of the consumers may have. One of my main concerns with the beef checkoff now is the value of the dollar of the beef checkoff. The beef checkoff was established in 1985, and the beef checkoff dollar now is only worth 41 cents. We need more support because we have to educate the people what is going on in the beef industry. We want to educate them about nutritional value of beef.
We've raised our children in this lifestyle, and our middle daughter would certainly like to continue that lifestyle. She has a passion for the cattle industry, and I believe with the beef checkoff's help that she could continue in the beef cattle industry and prosper and have a viable business for her and her children.
We need the support of the beef checkoff to pass this on to the next generation. Our next generation is going to take this industry and have to move forward with it, and with the support of the beef checkoff, they will be able to do this to have a better, more prosperous product here in the future of the beef industry. What we need is support of the beef checkoff in order for these things to continue on.
Still using ineffective fly tags on your cattle? It's time to eliminate fleas, ticks, flies, lice, and parasites, and at the same time give them a shiny coat, making them more valuable. One fly tag can cost $2.50, but you can do this all for about a nickel a head. Introducing the Cow Sprayer, designed and built in the U.S. The Cow Sprayer is portable, solar-powered, and comes with a 25 or 40-gallon tank. Eliminate parasites for about 5 cents a head with the Cow Sprayer. Cowsprayer.com.
It's easy to spot the man who uses Synanthic. With lower volume and less waste, Synanthic steps up your deworming routine. Get more deworming with less dewormer at Synanthic.com.
Beringer Ingelheim Vetmedica Inc. knows the importance of beef quality assurance and asks you to step up and get certified. Go to bqa.org for details.
This segment is brought to you by the Beef Quality Assurance Program and the Kansas Beef Council, improving animal care and beef safety for more than 20 years.
Hey folks, welcome back to DocTalk. Dr. Dan Thompson and Dr. Kelli Almes. We're from Kansas State University at the College of Veterinary Medicine, where Dr. Almes is a pathologist in our veterinary diagnostic laboratory. And you have some numbers. We always like numbers.
Numbers are good. So yeah, we looked at all the bovine abortion submissions from the calendar year of 2016, which doesn't really go along with calving season, but it's one of the best ways we have to search the data that we have. And it's very cyclical, the numbers of submissions we get each year, and a lot of that has to do with the price of cattle. So if they're worth more diagnostics are typically done. We had quite a few submissions last year, over 150 bovine abortions, and we got a diagnosis, a definitive diagnosis, so we are comfortable that that's the exact cause in 55 of those. So it's hovering between 30 and 35%. Which
That's actually pretty good.
About the average of diagnostic labs, yeah. So last year, like I said, we had 55, and bacterial and viral were the highest two causes, with IBR being up there. And we don't get a lot of follow-up sometimes, but we're very suspicious a lot of times due to the little history that we do get is that it was potentially inappropriate vaccine administration during pregnancy. But we don't know for sure. A lot of times, like I said, we don't get that great of follow-up.
And that gets into that. We're talking about prevention too. That gets into that killed versus modified live on bred cows and things to that.
Right. Or just making sure you're following the timeline of administration for the modified live. If you read and you use it properly, then you should be fine. But it's the ones that if they were heifers, especially, we've seen it a little bit more. So it just depends on.
Talk to your veterinarian.
Yeah.
He or she will know exactly what we're talking about. Always work through them. If you're just going in and buying the vaccine at the farm store and you're vaccinating because you caught them, you might be doing more harm than you're good.
Very much so. Very much so. Yeah. And then bacterial and, like I said, bacterial and viral are about the same. And last year we kind of saw a mix of bacteria. We had some strep, some salmonella. So like I said, those are the really just sporadic one at a time sort of thing. So that's not an infectious thing that's going to kind of wipe out much of your herd, but they're still important causes. And it's important to identify what it is to make sure that it's not something infectious that's going to spread.
Yep. And so I take it you're working with veterinarians, you're helping veterinarians, not just in Kansas, but around the region, understand what these abortions are being caused by, providing CE, things of that nature.
Yeah, so we try. We've got some YouTube videos on our website with sample collection. And especially last year, we developed 2 new tests geared towards bovine abortion. We did a PCR panel that's done on tissue. And then we came up with that serology panel, especially for, like, we're talking about the cows that abort early and you don't have the fetus for testing. So we tried to do some email blasts last year, put it up on our website, and just get it out there with some of our outreach activities.
Perfect. Well, thanks for all you do. Thanks for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you for watching DocTalk. Remember, always work with your local veterinarian. And if you want to know more about what we do at DocTalk, you can find us on the web at www.doctalktv.com. I'm Dr. Dan Thompson. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll see you down the road.
Closed caption brought to you by AgriLabs, the perfect pairing of performance and value.
For more information about this program or previous programs, go to DocTalkTV.com. DocTalk was brought to you by Merck Animal Health, the science of healthier animals.